The main challenge was the lack of time because
Okay.
I was not expecting, UI UX का आएगा listing. So
Hmm.
I just thought कि campus placement में हमारे college में तो UI UX नहीं ही आएगा. It's not
Hmm.
possible. So I was not even focusing on that. So I did not have a lot of time. Uh,
Okay.
and I would have preferred to have a portfolio, but there wasn't enough time to,
Hmm.
learn, make projects, and then make a portfolio. It takes a lot of time.
हे गाइस, कैसे हो आप सभी? उम्मीद करता हूँ सभी लोग ठीक रहो। यार, आज का पॉडकास्ट एक ऐसा पॉडकास्ट था जो कि मैं पर्सनली आई वाज लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू दिस पॉडकास्ट एंड लाइक इट वाज ऑल अराउंड यूआई यूएक्स। One of my friend, Riddhi Chavda, she got a placement as a UI UX developer in Zeus Learning. So मैंने सोचा यार क्यों ना उससे बात करूं एंड आई टू गेट टू नो अबाउट कि UI UX एग्जैक्टली है क्या। एंड लाइक आज के पॉडकास्ट में हमने बहुत सारी चीज़ों पे बात की कि UI UX है क्या, पोर्टफोलियोज होते हैं, ड्रिबल पे जाते हैं, ड्रिबल पे हमें अलग अलग डिजाइन मिलते हैं, हमारे डेवलपर पोर्टफोलियो जैसा होता है वैसे ही एक यूआई यूएक्स का यूआई यूएक्स डेवलपर के लिए पोर्टफोलियो होता है। वो पोर्टफोलियो क्यों जरूरी है, क्या क्या रिसोर्सेज यूज करने चाहिए, फिर यूआई और यूएक्स का मेजर डिफरेंस क्या है, एंड रिद्धि ने बहुत सारे सीक्रेट्स इस पॉडकास्ट में बताए। सो आप आई होप आप ये पूरा पॉडकास्ट देखना, एंड अगर आपको ये पॉडकास्ट अच्छा लगे तो लाइक करना, शेयर करना और सब्सक्राइब करना मत हेलो रिद्धि, कैसे हो?
Hi, I'm doing well. तू कैसा है?
बस फर्स्ट क्लास। So first of all, congratulations on getting the job offer from Zeus.
Thank you.
आपका रोल के बारे में थोड़ा और बताइए।
So I've been selected for the UI design or visual design role, and that is basically you are designing the interface for software applications. When you talk about user interface, it could be anything, it could be any product, but I will be specifically working on edtech related products. So softwares for companies that are providing learning applications for students, and when you're designing a user interface, you are actually looking at the visual aspect of what a software looks like. So, what are the colors? What is the typography, the fonts that you're using? What is the spacing between your elements? And basically, how the user will interact with the visual elements on the screen.
Okay, so I do have a series of questions for you because
Hmm.
maybe as a developer, I want to know more about what exactly is UI UX. I know the basics like this is user interface, user experience,
Hmm.
but I want to know from a person जिसको वो चीज़ पे बहुत knowledge है. So I have a series of questions lined up for you. So get ready. So
Okay.
first of all, let me know about how was the application process for Zeus Learning.
So I was not expecting them to, come up with the UI UX rules because I had taken a look at last year's placement and everything, and they had come for the, QA and the software development and I think data analyst roles. So I was not prepared for it, but they had given two separate listings for UX and UI. Generally, when you're applying, most of the companies ask for UI UX in the same person. So you are
Okay.
working as a UI UX developer, दोनों, ठीक है. But they had separate listings, and I was not as confident for UX, so I went for UI. And you had to fill a form, and they didn't ask for the resume, I think, in the beginning. And for the selection process, they had an online aptitude test. There was a pen paper test which was offline, and there were two technical interviews.
Okay. Okay. So how did you prep for the interviews? What was your preparation strategy?
For the interviews, um, I tried to find out as many questions as I could that they could ask about UI designing, and I tried to prepare myself in terms of not, getting lost when the interview is going on, because I tend to get really nervous on camera, and I was confident that I would, get lost in my own thoughts. So I tried to practice
Okay.
that, and I used ChatGPT to find out a lot of questions. that may be asked, and then I tried to write down answers to those questions, tried to practice those answers, and basically learn as much as I could related to
Okay.
design.
Okay. Okay. So, what were some of the resources, like apart from ChatGPT, that you use for your preparation? And like, what exactly you
Hmm.
have to prepare for UI UX apart from like the aptitude, if there is an aptitude test?
Um, so for the aptitude, the general aptitude is the same as all the other aptitude tests that you give for placement. But there is also a design aptitude section. So for Zeus, the procedure is such that they've kept two tests, right, in the aptitude. So the second test is always tailored to what your role is. So the QA people had a QA related second test, and we had a design related test, right? So I can't speak about UX because I did not apply to that. But for UI, they had uh, design related aptitude that you would need to prepare if you've never been acquainted with that kind of stuff before. I already had some understanding of that because when I was in 12th standard, I was also preparing for architecture entrance exam. So for that, like NATA, so they have that kind of aptitude. So I already had an understanding of that. That's if you want to learn more about what kind of aptitude questions come up in the design aptitude test, you can just look up NATA paper also. They have similar kind of questions. Okay.
Okay.
As for the, what was the question that you originally asked me?
The questions was like, what were the resources apart from ChatGPT that you
Yeah,
used?
right. Yeah. So mainly I was learning from YouTube. I did not have a lot of time to prepare for the thing because as soon as the we got the notification, that's when I started preparing. So YouTube, there are a lot of really good YouTubers. Um, there's a guy called Michael Malvix, and then there are also a few Indian YouTubers. They provide a lot of content, and all of this is really great for getting into UI and UX and understanding the fundamentals. As long as you have a sort of roadmap, you know the topics that you need to understand. So I would suggest going for a basic understanding of UI UX first, what it means, what is the difference between the two of them, then understanding what goes into UI and what goes into UX. What are the parts
Okay.
that make up UI and UX, and then the procedure of how it is done. And I think that's about it. That gives you an idea of how to go about learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, wherever I go for searching for designs, I usually go on Dribble and stuff, and I
Hmm.
get to see the users some kind of portfolio. Like,
Hmm.
as
Yeah.
me as a developer, I do have my own portfolio where I have created that by coding and the entire portfolio. So, for UI UX designers, what is exactly a portfolio and what is the importance for
Hmm. Portfolio is the main thing for any kind of designers, right? The portfolio is the thing that the people are going to, judge you for. As in, that's the thing that people are going to, like, as a developer, you might have a resume and you might have examples of the projects that you've done. But as a designer, you need to have a portfolio. The design of the portfolio itself also shows what kind of a design you are. So
that? Okay.
people have a lot of creative portfolios, and you need to, as a UI UX designer, you need to have tons of projects, hands-on experience on developing different kinds of UI and user experience interfaces, and you need to have a variety of projects on your portfolio,
Okay.
right? So that you can show them that you can do diverse things and you're capable
Okay.
of designing for different types of corporations. It's
Okay.
generally recommended to tailor your portfolio to the company that you are applying to. I don't have a portfolio as of now. I'm still working on that. It takes a lot of time to build a good portfolio. But portfolio is like the main thing. It's really important for any UI UX designer, and it is the thing that gets you into a company.
Okay. So you talked about like you need to create many projects. So what are some key projects
Hmm.
that you have worked upon till
So far I've obviously worked on the projects that we've done in college, so my major project and stuff. I'm also working on a few like there's one application that sort of allows hobbyists, so basically people who crochet and knit like myself. So there are a lot of things that we can benefit from if we had an application You might not have a lot of idea about crocheting and knitting, so you won't understand the things that I'm talking about. But it's basically like an application that allows you to keep track of the projects that I'm working on as a in crocheting and knitting. Then keep track of the stitches that I'm doing, the rows, the pattern that I'm using for crocheting. Then sort of like a social media and a project tracker for crocheting and knitting people, right? So that's one application that I'm working on. I'm also working on a sort of journaling, mental health sort of application. So
Okay.
these are the things that I'm working on, but there are a lot of videos on YouTube that will guide you on what kind of projects you should target for your
Okay.
portfolio.
Okay. So you talked about like the key projects and where should we get them,
Mhm.
and you talked about crochet. So how did you showcase your skills and the designs that you as a uh, UI designer are having? Where do you showcase it and how do you showcase it?
When I was, applying and when I had my interview, I did not have any projects to show because, uh, as I said, I just started learning about it, and I hadn't worked on any designs at all, like proper designs. Obviously, I was guiding the UI UX for projects and stuff, but I wasn't making designs on Figma as such. So I only had one thing to show them. Like it was a very basic, rudimentary, like practice draft. So I did
Okay.
not have anything to show during the interview. But if you want to show your skills, it's imperative that you make designs that like showcase the full what do you say spectrum of your abilities. So there are a lot of things that go into making a UI specifically. So there are components that you have to make, and these are the basic things that they are looking for when they're looking for a fresher. So are you
Okay.
able to create these components? Do you have an understanding of the software, Figma or Adobe XD? Are you able to work with a given particular what do you call it? Like for any company, they already have a software, right? For example, if you're
Okay.
going to apply as a UX designer at Google, they already have a whole design system. They have their own fonts, they have their own particular things that this is what Google stuff looks like. So you have to be able to design in order to build for that particular design. You need to be able to
Okay.
make something that is cohesive with that and doesn't look like, ये तो कुछ और ही application है. It has to fit
Hmm.
into their design. So are you able to do those kinds of things? So you need to kind of represent those abilities when you are making a design. So maybe take another application such as Spotify or WhatsApp, and you try to make another feature for them. You add something, so you show that you are able to build something that these huge corporations have built. You're able to copy that, and you're also able to add something to it to make it look like it is a part of that. So that kind of helps.
I do personally have one question. Like, what is the core difference between being a UI developer and a UX developer? And like, how do they complement each other?
Hmm. Okay, so UI and UX, user interface and user experience. Both of them have the word user in it. And so basically, what it means is that they're both centered towards users. So you are working for the users and you are creating for the users. Okay, your main concern is not the stakeholders, the company, the particular product. Your main concern is the users. Obviously, all of these things do come into picture, but your main concern, primary concern, is always the user. So the difference between user interface and user experience is basically just that user interface is, in layman terms, just the look of the application, what it looks like, what like we're looking at Google Meet right now. So what are the small icons, how big they are, what particular icons you're using, and how the thing is laid out. All of that is the looks of the application. That is the user interface. And user experience is when I'm using Google Meet. How am I feeling, and what sort of shows up on the screen. How am I supposed to go from the homepage of Google Meet to entering a meeting? How how the journey of the user is when they're interacting with an application. So basically, in user experience, you are focusing on how to make the user's experience more enjoyable and such that there are no sort of barriers to them using the application. Imagine if you have a very beautiful looking website. Okay, you have great typography, great design, but when you're like clicking on certain things, it's not taking you to the right link. Maybe there are not enough navigation options. When you go to the particular profile, you don't have a logout option, and then you can't figure out how to go to the home page. So sort of like um, making the user feel the product seamless, basically. And user interface is just how it looks.
Okay. Okay. So, what are some of the misconceptions like people have like about UI UX designing, and what are your calls on?
Mm, I think one of the misconceptions about UI UX um, is that specifically UX is that it's easy. It's easier than UI or other things.
Okay.
But UX कर लेते हैं ना उसमें तो कुछ करना नहीं पड़ा. You don't have to code. You don't have to design also. Basically, you just have to think about how applications work, and you just have to make wireframes. It's so easy, but it's not that easy because you have to do a lot of things in order to, uh, create an application that is satisfying your targeted users' needs. And it doesn't work as कि I used to think कि मैं भी तो user हूँ. So I know, how my experience is with a certain application. I know what I want from an application. But हम लोग को सिर्फ खुद का नहीं देखना. We have to
Mhm.
look at every single user जो use करने वाला है,
हाँ
right? तो
हाँ.
that is a misconception, common misconception कि easy रहता है. But you have to do a lot of research. You have to work on a lot of different iterations of a product. You have to do a lot of testing, a lot of test runs with users, with other people, and you have to understand their needs very clearly. You have to empathize with the users. तभी जाके you are able to create it. ऐसा. So that is one misconception. And there is also, I think, that people think that UI UX is very separate and very distinct. ज़्यादा कुछ
Okay.
मतलब ऐसा they're not connected, but
Mhm.
it's very like UI is basically inside UX only, and UX is the broader sort of umbrella. And
Okay.
if you are learning UI, you are still doing some UX. You have to do UX because
Okay.
at the end of the day, you are thinking about the user experience. तो तुम जो UI भी डिजाइन कर रहे हो वो वही ध्यान में रख के करना है ऐसा.
Okay. तो मतलब हम बोल सकते हैं कि ये दोनों एक दूसरे के बिना अधूरे हैं. एक ना रहा तो दूसरा भी
हाँ
ऑब्वियसली नहीं रह पाएगा.
हाँ
Okay.
हाँ हाँ ऐसा बोल सकते हो.
Okay. So consider a scenario like you are given a UI UX project. So
हम्म,
as a UI UX UI developer, how would you approach to that project? Like, what would be your strategy? Like, how would you talk to the client? How would you take his needs? How would you approach
हम्म.
that particular project?
Um, First of all, I will try to figure out what the problem is that I have to solve. Right. So it's very important to have a very clear problem statement. You need to figure out exactly who you are, creating for. So you need to understand who your targeted user is. So you find out you this requires a lot of brainstorming and research, and you figure out exactly what you are trying to solve. There are a lot of problems. बहुत सारे users की बहुत सारी problems होती है, but you have to pick any one that is your main concern, जो सबसे ज़्यादा important है तुम्हारे लिए. So once you
Okay.
have that laid out, then you can start working on solutions about how to figure out a solution to that problem. This requires a lot of unbiased problem solving. So you are trying to create solutions, but you're not judging the solutions. तभी you don't decide कि ये अच्छा है, ये करना है, वो करना है. You just generate a lot of solutions. फिर once you have a lot of solutions, then you start working on which of them are going to work, which of them are good. Then you try to
Okay.
refine those solutions. You try to make wireframes, you try to make prototypes, you design those. Then you test at each stage. You're going to test, and you're going to get feedback from your stakeholders, from your clients, from users, and from your own team members. Everyone has to give feedback. You have to test it out at every stage, and then you make revisions. So it's basically a very iterative process. You go back and forth a lot, and then you finally have one final design, and then that will again be tested. Again, you'll take feedback. Again, you'll go to users and you'll observe how they are interacting with it. What is it that they are missing and what they're needing, and then again you make changes. So basically, it goes on like that until you decide, okay, fine, we have to stop it now.
Okay.
Aisa. So
Okay.
there isn't really a stop to the process, but you only have so much time and so much budget. So according to
Okay.
that, you have to stop the process. So that's when it stops, and then you roll out the, you send it to the developers, and then it gets made, and whatever. And then again, the process starts again once you have to make another version.
Okay. So, what are some of the softwares that you use for your practice?
As in for practicing your works.
For practicing UI UX.
So mostly the main thing that I like to do is observe a lot of real life applications. So whenever, like, it is a 24/7 process, the mind is always working on these things. So if I'm using some sort of application, some sort of software, at the back of the mind there's always the, oh ये ऐसा है, ये ऐसा क्यों किया होगा. So you have to
Hmm.
keep your mind working in that way in order to understand the design choices of bigger corporations जिनके products चल रहे हैं, बिक रहे हैं. So you need to understand that. So that is the main thing that I try to make myself do. Then I try to also observe designs on. I have एक second. मैंने note down किए थे I'll just. Hmm. So yeah, I have. There are a bunch of websites that you can also refer to in order
Okay.
to improve your skills. So I watched a video and they listed out a few good websites. I'm going to just list them out. There's growth.design. They make case studies about existing products. So you can go there and it's very interactive and you can look at the case study. So what a case study is basically doing is they are analyzing every aspect of the product, the design.
Okay.
कि इन्होंने ये क्यों किया, वो क्यों किया ऐसा. So if you look at those case studies and you try to learn from them, then you are understanding the reasoning and you will be able to apply that into your own designs.
Okay.
Then there is Mobbin.design. This is about how existing apps look. So basically just a reference for existing applications. Like जैसे Spotify हो गया तो उसका
Hmm.
सारे उसमें रहेंगे pages का कि वो कैसा दिखता है. So you can use it
Okay.
for reference. Then Adobe XD Ideas करके है. They have articles, a lot of informative articles that are given by experts. So those are
Okay.
also very useful for learning. Okay. And then there is yeah, these are the main ones. And then I also looked at just designs from other creators on Rebel Behance and try to learn from those.
Okay. So,
Oh,
what?
and just your question was about practicing, right? So
Yeah.
to practice, basically, you try to create wireframes. You can use pen and paper to do it, and then you can sort of try to create the actual design on Figma. You
Okay.
take feedback from your peers, your friends, your family, whoever uses applications, and then you try to, reiterate it, basically.
Okay. Okay. So, what were some of the challenges that you had faced during your preparation or while you were learning about UI UX, and how did you overcome?
The main challenge was the lack of time because
Okay.
I was not expecting, UI UX का आएगा listing. So
Hmm.
I just thought कि campus placement में हमारे college में तो UI UX नहीं ही आएगा. It's not
Hmm.
possible. So I was not even focusing on that. So I did not have a lot of time. Uh,
Okay.
and I would have preferred to have a portfolio, but there wasn't enough time to,
Hmm.
learn, make projects, and then make a portfolio. It takes a lot of time. So my main challenge was just the lack of time. I had to practice aptitude also, and I had to learn about UI UX design also. And I just
Okay.
did not have any idea कि कैसे type के question पूछेंगे. So
Okay.
it was I was clueless. I was just learning randomly कि जितना हो सके उतना I can find out about UI and
Okay.
ऐसे हो जाएगा करके बस.
Acha, okay. So, what would be your message to anyone who's like, let's say he or she is in the third year or in the second year and who wants to start about learning UI UX and wants to explore about UI
Hmm.
UX? So, what
Hmm.
would you, as a senior Didi, say to them?
Hmm. I would say that it's not very difficult. It's doable.
Okay.
If you're not interested in coding at all, if you're not, you just know कि coding नहीं करना मुझे, तो this is a very good option for those kinds of people.
Okay.
मुझे बिल्कुल interest नहीं था coding करने में. I never took any part in coding because I was interested in it पहले before starting college. मुझे सोचा okay IT it will be fun, I'll do coding, but once you get those subjects और वो बार you have to learn the languages and everything, it just gets so tedious. I'm not made for that kind of stuff. So as a hobby, I still like to dabble in it as a side में, but I don't want to do it as an occasion occupation
Okay.
क्या बोलूँ. So
Okay.
if you know कि तुमको नहीं करना coding, then you can go for software testing is also a great option called
Yeah.
but वो भी नहीं करना, उसमें भी थोड़ा बहुत coding आ जाता है, थोड़ा technical है वो भी. But if you don't know any coding at all, then you go for UI UX. And UI UX is basically the reason why anybody can do UI UX is because everybody is a user. So
हाँ.
all you need as a person is to have an open mind and to be empathetic to the needs of others, so that you sort of have that mindset of trying to understand their problems and trying to fix that. If you have a creative spark, that's even better. That's a bonus. So you're able
Okay.
to easily grasp onto the concepts of UI UX and you're able to figure it out. So my main advice would be कि clarity जितना हो सके उतना लाने की कोशिश करो. Explore whatever you can. जितनी तुमको चीजें चांस मिलता है, जस्ट एक्सप्लोर एवरीथिंग एंड ट्राई एवरीथिंग
Okay.
आउट और फिगर आउट करने की कोशिश करो कि तुमको क्या चाहिए. एंड वंस यू नो देन इट्स वेरी इजी. वंस यू आर श्योर कि यही करना है तो फिर ठीक है. यू विल फाइंड रिसोर्सेज, यू विल फाइंड द पीपल who will be very ready to help you, and you find
Okay.
all the roads will open. बट तुमको पता होना चाहिए कि तुमको क्या करना है.
Okay. So this is my last question. Like I have started asking this question, like I think from the last podcast only. So what's the best piece of advice that you have ever received?
It's a tough one. A lot of advice. I've received a lot of advice. um, I think there are two things. One thing that has stuck with me since, like, I read it in a book, and since then it has really stuck with me. Like, whenever I have a problem and facing a problem, I kind of is in the back of my mind, and it helps me sort things out and navigate. It's from a book called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, and I don't remember the exact thing, but it was basically about how we are our own jailer. So if you imagine a prisoner behind bars, okay, so they're standing behind the bars and they're shaking the bars vigorously कि मुझे बाहर निकालो यहाँ से. But there are no bars on the left, right, or the back. सिर्फ आगे ही bars है. And you can just walk around them and you're outside the prison. So you are your own jailer. Your thoughts, your own mind is, holding you a prisoner. तो तुम्हारे हाथ में ही है. तुम निकल सकते हो. You just have to be able to see that. You're focusing on the problem, so that's why you can't see the solution that's right in front of you. So this particular thing has always stayed with me and really kind of helps me navigate life. And another thing, advice that I've got, I think I don't remember the exact thing, but my best friend told me that you are not defined by the things that you do. Like basically, you are not defined by your occupation. You're not defined by your abilities. You're a separate from those things. Because I used to have a lot of trouble finding my own identity. I used to think that okay, I'm an artist, so that used to take up a lot of my like identity space. So if I'm not making art, I used to feel lost. I used to feel कि मैं क्या कर रही हूँ, मैं कौन हूँ, ऐसा. तो मुझे मुझे
अच्छा.
ऐसे जमता नहीं था कि um, if I'm not making art, then I'm worthless. ऐसा लगता था. So my friend, when I was having a breakdown about that thing, he told me कि you are not defined by those things. You're not defined by being an artist. You are your own person. So you should always
Okay.
remember कि तुम कुछ भी करो, that is not directly corresponding to who you are. That does not
Okay.
change who you are.
Okay. That was pretty deep, हाँ. मुझे भी थोड़ा ऐसा समझने में इनकलकेट करने में टाइम लगा. अच्छा है. मतलब that was pretty good. So thank you so much, Riddhi, for being my guest today. It was lovely talking to you, and I really ये पॉडकास्ट पर्सनली मुझे बहुत मज़ा आया क्योंकि मुझे बहुत सारी चीज़ें जाननी थी यूआई यूएक्स के बारे में.
Hmm.
क्योंकि कभी कभी मैं और हर भी बात करते हैं यार लाइक कि भाई ये लोग ऐसा सोचते कैसे होंगे. क्योंकि हम एज अ डेवलपर हमारे दिमाग में अलग चीजें चलती है कि हाँ इसको ये एपीआई कॉल ऐसे करना है, इसको ये करना
हम्म
है, बट यूआई यूएक्स का डोमेन आए मुझे भी बहुत टाइम से वो एक्सप्लोर करना था, एंड आई वाज लिटरली लुकिंग टू टॉक टू यू अबाउट दैट, बट ड्यू टू हमारे एग्जाम्स दैट थिंग वाज नॉट
हम्म
पॉसिबल। सो रिद्धि ने भी आज टाइम निकाल के हमारे साथ ये पॉडकास्ट शूट किया, सो थैंक यू सो मच रिद्धि फॉर बीइंग
ऑफ
माय गेस्ट
कोर्स,
टुडे।
थैंक यू फॉर इनवाइटिंग मी। एंड और भी अगर तुझे कभी भी वांट टू नो मोर अबाउट योर यूएक्स, जस्ट विद मी, आप अपन बात कर सकते हो, इसमें ऐसा क्या है, कुछ है नहीं। जस्ट टेक्स्ट मी विद योर
पक्का पक्का
क्वेश्चंस।
पक्का पक्का। सो रिद्धि का लिंक्डइन प्रोफाइल मैं चैट में डाल दूंगा, आपको कुछ भी डाउट हो तो आप जाके उनको परेशान करो, वो आराम से रिप्लाई दे देगी एंड शी विल बी एबल टू गाइड। ओके, थैंक यू सो मच रिद्धि।
थैंक यू।